I can't believe it's taken me 10 years of collecting to finally get a Sevilla jersey, but the wait is over, so let's talk about them now. As their name suggests, they're from Seville in Andalusia in the south of Spain. Sevilla were founded in 1890, which makes them one of the oldest sporting clubs in all of Spain. Like most clubs in Spain that go back that far, they can trace their lineage back to British expatriates who had come over at the time. This is their away kit from 2019. As you can see, it's an all-red kit with white sleeves, both of which are their club colors. Their home kit is all white, and both colors are reflected at the bottom of their badge. Sevilla stay with tradition quite well. Their current badge has been there for 100 years. Their badge is a shield. It has 3 different segments, all centered around a football in the middle. In the top left, you can see elements from the coat of arms of the city of Seville. In the top right, you have the old badge, which has just the club's letters SVC in it. In the bottom, you can see the red and white vertical stripes, 2 of the most predominant colors ever used in their jerseys. So, here are your 3 things to know about Sevilla. First, they're not as successful in their domestic league as they are in cups. They've only actually won La Liga 1 time back in the 40s, but they've won 5 Copas del Rey. More importantly, they've won the Europa League a record 6 times, including 3 times in a row in this last decade. They always seem to come up big when it comes to the Europa League, with their final 2 that they've won coming against Inter Milan and Liverpool. Sevilla seem to be so synonymous with the Europa League that even the latest final took place at their stadium, the Estadio Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, between Eintracht Frankfurt and Glasgow Rangers. Second, let's talk rivalries, because they contest one of the most important derbies that takes place in Spain every single year. It's called the Seville Derby because it takes place against Real Betis, who are their crosstown rivals. Also, Sevillistas don't really care for Atletico Madrid or Valencia. So let's take a look at some players in their current squad. First, let's talk about Ivan Rakitic, their current number 10, who's returned to Sevilla from Barcelona in recent seasons. Second, I've promised myself that if I ever came across a player nicknamed after a beer, I'd tell you guys about it. So this is Tecatito Corona. Obviously, last name Corona. His nickname comes from Tecate. That's hilarious. And finally, if you're talking about Sevilla, you have to talk about their native son and captain, Jesus Navas, who has returned to the club for a second time after a stint with Manchester City earlier this decade. He's coming up on 600 appearances for the club. And in the same vein of players that have been with the club for a long time, they have 6 different players who've made more than 400 appearances for the club. To go along with Jesus Navas, I'll mention Pablo Blanco, one of their old center backs. To go beyond that, let's talk about 2 strikers that are famed from Sevilla, the first being Alvaro Negredo, who moved to Manchester City after his time with Sevilla, but he's still in the game playing for Cadiz and banging in goals since they've come back to La Primera a couple seasons ago. And finally, an old Croatian striker and one of a very famed name, Davor Suker, came from Croatia to Sevilla during the Croatian War of Independence. So that's your rundown on this famous and lovely old Spanish club.